What about this chief argument that comes up for the president's allies and his legal team that this should have been handled under the Presidential Records Act, not this Espionage Act charge and other federal statutes that were used here?
Well, it started out under the Presidential Records Act and the archives trying to retrieve documents that Trump had no right to have. But it quickly became clear that what the government was really worried about were these classified and very sensitive documents. I was shocked by the degree of sensitivity of these documents and how many there were, frankly. And so the government's agenda was to get those, protect those documents and get them out. And I think it was perfectly appropriate to do that. It was the right thing to do. And I think the counts under the Espionage Act that he willfully retained those documents are solid counts. Now, I do think we have to wait and see what the defense says and what proves to be true. But I do think that even half what Andy McCarthy said, which is if even half of it is true, then he's toast. I mean, it's a very detailed indictment, and it's very, very damning. And this idea of presenting Trump as a victim here, a victim of a witch hunt, is ridiculous. Yes, he's been a victim in the past. Yes, his adversaries have obsessively pursued him with phony claims. And I've been at his side defending against them when he is a victim. But this is much different. He's not a victim here. He was totally wrong that he had the right to have those documents. Those documents are among the most sensitive secrets that the country has. They have to be in the custody of the archivist. He had no right to maintain them and retain them. And he kept them in a way at Mar-a-Lago that anyone who really cares about national security, their stomach would churn at it. Here, I think the government acted responsibly. They gave him every opportunity to return those documents. They acted with restraint. They were very deferential to him, and they were very patient. They talked to him for almost a year to try to get those documents, and he jerked them around. They finally went to a subpoena, and what did he do? According to the government, he lied and obstructed that subpoena. And then they did a search, and they found a lot more documents. And they're not even, I don't think they're even sure now whether they have everything. Now, we can't forget here that this entire thing came about because of reckless conduct of the president. If he had just turned over the documents, which I think every other person in the country would have done, they're the government's documents. They're official records. They're not his personal records. Battle plans for an attack on another country or Defense Department documents about our capabilities are in no universe Donald J. Trump's personal documents. They are the government's documents.
If even half of what Trump was accused of is true, he's toast. Not exactly what you want to hear from your own former attorney general on national TV. I mean, let's be honest. If the guy who stood up and completely misrepresented the Mueller report for the express purpose of protecting Donald Trump is saying that this indictment is so serious that Trump is toast, I'd say that doesn't exactly bode well for the guy. Now, Barr brings up a point that's especially important here. These documents did not belong to Donald Trump. They weren't his personal documents. They belonged to the federal government. The fact that he had access to them while he was president doesn't give him some claim to them after his presidential term was over. And for those who say, yeah, but he declassified them and so now he has some claim to them, again, no. Donald Trump or any president does not have carte blanche to declassify any document they want to. That only applies to certain documents, and even then, there is a statutory process that has to be followed. You don't just wave your hands and achieve declassification. And that's actually a point that Bill Barr brought up in no uncertain terms.
So there are two big lies, I think, that are out there right now. One is, oh, these other presidents took all these documents. Those were situations where they arranged with the archives to set up special space under the management, control, and security provided by the archivist to temporarily put documents until the libraries were ready. These were not people just putting them in their basement, okay? And the second thing that the president, this idea that the president has complete authority to declare any document personal is obvious. It's facially ridiculous. That opinion had to do with the distinction between official records, which are records prepared by government agencies for the purpose of government action, and personal documents as opposed to official documents, which are things prepared by the president, such as a diary or notes, which are not used in the government's deliberations. And yes, as to the second class, stuff that the president himself generates, the president has some discretion. But these are official documents. It's inarguable. The president's daily brief provided by the intelligence community is not Donald J. Trump's personal document, period.
Meaning that when Trump tries to deflect by claiming that Obama or his other predecessors are holding on to thousands of documents, he is purposefully obfuscating the facts. In reality, even the National Archives itself issued a statement debunking Trump's claim. The statement said that NARA had possession of Bush, Clinton, Obama, and Ronald Reagan presidential records after those presidents left office, and that NARA moved those records to temporary facilities NARA leased near the locations of their future presidential libraries. The statement continued, all such temporary facilities met strict archival and security standards and have been managed and staffed exclusively by NARA employees. Reports that indicate or imply that those presidential records were in the possession of the former presidents or their representatives after they left office, or that records were housed in substandard conditions, are false and misleading. In other words, Trump tried accusing other presidents of crimes on NARA's behalf, and even NARA itself was like, this is an abject lie. Meaning that Trump's two major defenses, that he had the ability to declassify everything, and also that this is some inconsistent application of the law because other presidents committed the same crime, are both completely incorrect. Trump was charged precisely because he had documents that were classified, that Trump never had the power to declassify, and that Trump shared with other unauthorized people. And Joe Biden and Barack Obama and George W. Bush and Hillary Clinton were not charged because they didn't commit any of the crimes that Trump committed. Remember, the only thing that Trump wasn't charged for was the unlawful retention of the documents that were returned to the National Archives. Why? Because NARA obviously understands that sometimes documents get mishandled, but so long as those officials cooperate and return them, that is okay. Had Trump simply cooperated from the jump, he'd have been fine. But instead, he made the conscious decision to stonewall and delay and lie, and that's why he was charged. And to be honest, it doesn't even make any sense. All he had to do was return them and he'd be completely out of the woods. But for some reason that defies logic, he opted instead to hold on to them and force law enforcement's hand. The only possible reason I could think of is that Donald Trump is so committed to the idea that he is above the law that even when it will have no discernible impact on his life to simply follow the law, still he refuses because he fundamentally wants the law not to apply to him. It's as if he blows stop signs simply because he thinks he can. That's how embedded in his DNA his criminality is. And it really is par for the course for the guy who currently leads a party that has branded itself the party of law and order. But while Trump may have had some degree of plausible deniability before while he had the levers of government to protect him, he doesn't anymore. Quite the opposite, considering the same henchmen who did insulate him from accountability before are now the ones calling him out. So Trump will invariably cling to his desperate excuses, but he isn't fooling anyone. And when that's coming from Fox News, you can be sure that what he did really is indefensible. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to this channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way, and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.